I'm here with Sarah from Lendu, and we're going to talk about mortgages for international investors looking to buy property here in Dubai and just cover off some of the common questions that we receive. So let's get going, and welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Haley. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So firstly, the number one question is, can international investors get a mortgage here in Dubai?
And the answer is very easy. Yes, they can get a mortgage and financing from the banks if they're willing to, or they want to buy property here in the UAE in general.
Yeah.
And the process is quite easy, very straightforward. Surprisingly, it's easier to get a mortgage for a non-resident than it is for a resident. So let's get.
Who knew?
Yeah,
exactly. So it's not as complicated as probably some people think.
exactly. Right. Yeah.
So I mean, why do people take a mortgage? What's the options?
Yeah, that's a good question, because most of the time people would take a mortgage to finance their ready-to-move-in property from the secondary market. This is the most common case, and this is what we see in most of the cases. But you can also get a mortgage to finance an off-plan property that is going to be handed over. Because when you buy a property off-plan, most of the times it comes with a payment plan. Usually it's 50 during construction, 50 on handover, or sometimes 60% during construction and 40% on handover. This handover payment, you can get it financed by the bank, of course subject to approval from the bank, but you can still get it financed by the bank.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then lastly, you can also get a mortgage to do an equity release from a property that you own here in the UAE. So you can pull out some cash from the property that you own and use it either as a down payment to buy another property, so zero cash involved, or to take this cash, pull out this cash and use it to refurbish your existing property.
So what's the difference between applying for a mortgage for a property which is ready versus under construction?
This is actually a very common question that most of the clients are asking me. And in reality, you cannot get financing from the bank for a property that is under construction. Right? You can only get financing for the handover payment, not the payments that is due during construction.
Yeah, so the clients think that they can get it on the majority of the property value.
Yes.
In which they can't.
They cannot.
And that is why developers offer the interest-free payment plan to make the installments throughout the construction of the property, and then, like you said, it's the handover amount.
Yes, and the handover payment, they can finance it from the bank. The rest, not specific.
Yeah. Okay. Briefly explain what is the process for the mortgage application.
Yes. So the process is very easy and straightforward. We start with a document that is called a pre-approval from the bank. So when a client wants to apply to a mortgage, he needs to first get this pre-approval. Pre-approval is just a document from the bank saying that this client is financially capable to get a financing from the bank and that they're willing to finance this person. So this document is very important once the client is ready and actively searching for a property or viewing properties. Why? Because when they find the property and they're willing to put an offer on it, this document is most of the time going to be requested from the seller, and it gives to the buyer a power of negotiation with the seller, because then the seller would know that this client is legit. And once we have the pre-approval and the client has signed an MOU to buy a property, the bank will first do the valuation, and once the valuation is done, we request the final offer letter, which is basically your mortgage contract. They will prepare it. Once the mortgage contract is ready, that's the only moment where the client needs to actually come into the UAE or to Dubai to sign it physically at the bank and open their bank account. Once this is done, the bank will release the funds, the loan will be dispersed, and then we can proceed with the transfer.
Yeah. And at what point does the client need to be physically in Dubai in that process?
Technically, he only needs to be here in Dubai to sign the final offer letter.
Yeah.
Even for transfer, he can do it through a POA. But for the signing of the final offer letter, the bank would really need him to be here physically to do it. He cannot do it through a POA or anything.
Okay.
This is just to avoid some frauds or...
Yeah. And in terms of the timeline process, is there like a minimum to a maximum you would expect this to be?
Yes, exactly. That's a very good question, because most of the time I tell the client to expect a timeline from the beginning till the end, something between 3 to 6 weeks.
Okay, so
It's really
similar
dep-
to the UK.
Yeah,
I think,
it's very similar. It really depends also on the property that you're buying, if it's a cash-owned property or mortgage property. If it's a mortgage property, then, well, there is a process in between the two banks that they need to settle each other that takes 2 weeks
Yeah.
longer. That's why, I said 6 weeks.
Okay, so what's the loan to value percentage?
For a non-resident that wants to buy in Dubai or in the UAE, the loan to value that the bank will give is 60%, up to 60%.
Can a employed and self-employed buyer take a mortgage, and what supporting documents are required? Like, is there much difference?
Yes, a salaried or self-employed, both of them can get a mortgage here in the UAE. That's not an issue. And the document that is required are very basic documents, basically passports, residency card, proof of residency, utility bill or whatever. And of course, the bank statements, 6 months bank statements. If the client is salaried, then of course we would need the salary certificate from his employer, pay slips from his employer also. If we're talking about a self-employed, we will still need the trade license mentioning his name, that the company is under his name, the memorandum of association, MOA, basically that's the most important document that the client needs to have to apply for a mortgage.
Okay. And lastly, so if somebody actually has a golden visa, the 10-year golden visa, so they've bought a property for 2 million dirhams.
Yes.
Can they get, does this mean that they can get 80% of the mortgage covered if they're non-resident, or?
Oh, actually, that's a very good question, because I have a lot of clients that come to me and they say, okay, I got a golden visa, or I got a visa in general here in the UAE. It means that I'm eligible for 80% financing from the bank. I'm eligible for the LTV of 80%. Well, in reality, they are not, because from the bank perspective, you'll be considered resident when your income are coming here in the UAE. So if your work is in the UAE or your company is established here in the UAE and generating income here in the UAE, yes, you can get 80% of financing. However, if your job or if your employer is outside the UAE, or your company is outside the UAE and generating income outside the UAE, and you just have a visa here in the country, you would still be considered as a non-resident because your income are outside the UAE.
Okay, and then it's 60%.
And then it's 60%.
Okay.
LTV, yes.
So thank you, Sarah, for coming along today. I think that's been really, really useful. Definitely some of the common questions that we get from clients if you're looking to get a mortgage here in Dubai. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me or Sarah at Lindu. We'll leave the contact details below. And thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you, Haley, for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.